The furnace and the legacy the screen opens on a stark contrast. Drone footage from spring 2023. The snow has melted, turning the earth into a vast, grotesque soup of black mud, churned by endless tracks and shells. This is the Bakhmut seasoning, as soldiers called it, the mud that could swallow a man, a vehicle, a hope. Over this hellscape, the fight enters its final frenzied act. If the winter was the grind, its spring of 2023 was the furnace. The battle for Bakhmut was now concentrated in a few square kilometers of utter ruin. The archival footage from this period changes. It's closer, more chaotic, more desperate. The wide shots of the industrial zone give way to tight, claustrophobic clips of close quarters. Combat in cellars and the rubble-filled shells of high-rise apartments. The Wagner tactics evolve. No longer just human waves, they employ small, heavily armed assault groups of experienced fighters to infiltrate Ukrainian positions under cover of the convict attacks. Drone-dropped munitions become the signature weapon of the battle. First-person footage from Ukrainian drones shows a terrifying new perspective. A small, winged grenade falling precisely through a broken window or an open rooftop into a Russian position. Then the screen shakes from the blast. The same happens to the Ukrainians. The war has become vertical. A three-dimensional fight where death can fall silently from the sky at any moment. In the heart of this, we find the story of the Bakhmut Bakers, a group of soldiers from the 28th Separate Mechanized Brigade, trapped in the basement of a destroyed bakery in the city center. For 37 days, they held their position. Their archival footage, a precious and gritty diary, shows a surreal existence. They map Russian movements through periscopes made from mirrors. They heat rations on a small stove fueled by broken furniture. One soldier, a former graphic designer from Lviv, sketches portraits of his comrades by headlamp. In one poignant clip, they celebrate a birthday with a single scavenged chocolate bar, singing a quiet, off-key rendition of Happy Birthday as the building above them trembles from impacts. Their commander, call sign Kleberub, the grain grower, says, "They own the street. We own this basement. As long as we are here, Bakhmut is not theirs, but the pressure is becoming unsustainable. The Russian pincers are closing from the north and the south, threatening the last supply routes. The footage from the road of life is now apocalyptic. Every journey is a gauntlet. A Ukrainian evacuation vehicle's dashcam records a direct hit on the ambulance, in front of it a blinding flash. Then debris. The driver slams the brakes, screams, then forces himself to drive around the wreckage. "We cannot stop," he mutters. A mantra for the entire defense. This is the context for one of the most controversial moments of the war. In May 2023, after a heroic and brutal defense that lasted 249 days, Ukrainian forces began a tactical withdrawal from the city's ruins. The world watched, confused. Was this a defeat? The footage of the withdrawal is some of the most emotionally charged. It is not a rout. It is a deliberate, fighting retreat. Soldiers leap from one piece of cover to the next, providing covering fire for their comrades. They fall back to new, pre-prepared defensive lines on the heights west of the city, in the suburbs of Kromov and Ivandovsky. The last soldiers to leave film a final look back. The city is a smoking, silent mound. A soldier places a small, tattered Ukrainian flag in the rubble of a doorway. He says simply, "We will be back for you." And then the human story of the aftermath. The stories of those who endured the occupation of the ruins. Olga, a 72-year-old woman who survived for 8 months in her basement with her 2 cats, emerges after liberation. In an interview, she describes a world of rats, starvation, and the constant thunder above. She shows the camera a small, shriveled potato, her food for 2 days. "I talk to my cats," she says. "We discuss the weather." The weather was always bombing. The battle's legacy is written in numbers that numb the mind. Tens of thousands of casualties on both sides. city 95% destroyed. But its true legacy is in the human calculus. The Ukrainian defense achieved its strategic goal. It exhausted and degraded the cream of Russia's assault forces, particularly the Wagner Group, buying critical time for Ukraine to train new brigades and receive advanced Western equipment. It became a symbol of Ukrainian resilience, a Ukrainian Thermopylae. The Russian victory, in contrast, was Pyrrhica Hollow. Costly capture of rubble that shattered their most capable private army and exposed the brutal, expendable philosophy of their war machine. The final archival footage is from the summer of 2023. Ukrainian forces, now on the higher ground, look down into the city they defended for so long. The bombardment continues, but the roles are reversed. Now it is the Russian positions in Bakhmut being pummeled by precise Ukrainian artillery. New footage shows assaults on the flanks near the villages of Klishchiivka and Andriivka. The soldiers who fought in the Bakhmut furnace are now using the hard-won lessons to take back the land. Meter by bloody meter. The story of Bakhmut is not a story of a battle won or lost on a map. It is a story of the human capacity to endure the unendurable. It is the piano tune in the cellar, the birthday chocolate in the bunker, the medic's unwavering hands, the driver's mantra, "We cannot stop." It is the face of a soldier, older than his years, explaining that he is buying time for his country with his life. The archival footage is his testimony. The human stories are his monument. Bakhmut, the city, is gone. But Bakhmut, the symbol of defiance, is etched forever in history. A stark reminder of the price of freedom in a world where, for some, the only currency they have is their courage. This is the raw, unvarnished truth of war, far from the political spin. These stories and images deserve to be remembered. If this documentary has given you a window into that reality, honor their struggle by ensuring it is not forgotten. Share this video. Talk about what you've seen. Subscribe for more content that puts humanity at the center of history.
Once admitted anonymously, "We don't have a Middle East policy. We have a Middle East customer service department." The war in Yemen became the ultimate testing ground and showroom. American-made precision bombs, sold for defensive purposes, were used in over 2,300 airstrikes on civilian targets. For defense contractors, this wasn't a tragedy, it was valuable field data. When Lockheed Martin markets the F-35 to Poland or Japan today, it can say, "Our targeting systems were validated in live combat over Yemen." The war, which has killed 377,000 people, became a laboratory where weapons were tested, tactics refined, and marketing materials updated, all funded by the very victims of the conflict. Meanwhile, an entire ecosystem of private contractors emerged to service the war machine. DynCorp International secured $200 million to maintain Saudi jets. Boeing sold $600 million in satellite-guided bomb kits. General Dynamics supplied $1.5 billion in ammunition. These corporations operate with near-total legal immunity. When a bomb misses its target and hits a school, the manufacturer faces no consequences. International law, as one Raytheon executive noted in leaked emails, had become our R&D department's best friend. But the Gulf states aren't naive buyers. They've developed offset agreements that force arms sellers to reinvest 30 to 60% of contract value locally. This created a secondary economy. Raytheon helped Saudi Arabia build its own missile factories. Lockheed partners with UAE on drone production. BAE Systems trains Egyptian engineers. The result is a permanent fusion of Western military technology and Middle Eastern capital. Fusion that depends on continuous tension to justify its existence. The shadow banking of WIR, the weapons trade, would be impossible without a financial system designed for opacity. Every missile shipment, every mercenary payment, every oil for arms deal moves through a deliberately complex web of shell companies, offshore accounts, and complicit banks. London provides the legal architecture. Dubai provides the financial plumbing. 69% of Middle Eastern arms deals are processed through London law firms specializing in defense compliance. Their job isn't to prevent sales, it's to make questionable sales look legitimate. When Saudi Arabia wanted Swiss ammunition for Yemen, which Switzerland wouldn't sell directly due to human rights concerns, the solution was elegant. Money moved through Desert Star Trading LLC in Dubai to Alpine Defense AG in Liechtenstein, then to the Swiss manufacturer, with shipment via Jordan. The paper trail showed a Jordanian purchase for border security. Each intermediary took a 5% cut pure profit for moving money through shadows. Dubai's role is particularly stark. The Dubai uncovered leaks revealed 46 UAE-based shell companies acting as conduits for weapons payments to Libyan, Syrian, and Yemeni factions. The Emirates' free zones, designed for legitimate business, became conflict finance hubs. Gold and diamond markets moved $12 billion. Annually, much of it weapons payments disguised as commodity trades. Cyprus became the personal banking hub for warlords. When the UAE needed to pay Russian mercenaries in Libya, transfers flowed through Nicosia. When Syrian regime officials wanted to shield wealth, they bought Cypriot passports and property. A former banker there confessed, "Our compliance department had two mandates: appear compliant to Western regulators, and don't ask questions about Middle Eastern transfers. Even humanitarian aid gets weaponized." A UN report found that 22% of aid funds in Syria were diverted to armed groups. The mechanism is simple. Western governments allocate money to NGOs who subcontract to local partners controlled by warlords. Those partners skim 30 to 40% for weapons, then buy supplies from businesses owned by the same warlords. When investigators get close, attacks on aid convoys prove the need for more security contractors of these same Western companies. The system feeds itself while starving its supposed beneficiaries. If this video made you think, the result is what one former negotiator called diplomacy in a hall of mirrors, every move toward peace creates optical illusions of danger. Every concession is framed as weakness, and every breakthrough is immediately shadowed by newly discovered obstacles that just happen to require military solutions. Yet within this seemingly unbreakable system, cracks are appearing. Generation Z investors are demanding ESG, environmental, social, and governance compliance from their funds, forcing financial institutions to scrutinize defense holdings. Open-source intelligence collectives like Bellingcat are tracing weapons shipments in real time, eroding the secrecy that enables plausible deniability. Blockchain forensic firms are following cryptocurrency payments to their ultimate beneficiaries, exposing networks that survive traditional banking scrutiny. The shadows where this economy thrived are getting brighter. Perhaps most importantly, the economic calculus is shifting. The renewable energy transition is slowly eroding the petrodollar foundation. A solar panel doesn't need defending like an oil field. An electric grid is harder to weaponize than a pipeline. As climate change makes the Middle East hotter and more unpredictable, the region's strategic value may shift from its underground resources to its above-ground potential for solar and wind generation. Transition that could replace an economy of scarcity with one of abundance. The choice is no longer between war and peace, but between two economic models, one that extracts value from destruction, and one that creates value from connection. The first is mature, sophisticated, and immensely profitable. The second is nascent, chaotic, and uncertain, but every system has its expiration date. And the sunset clause on the war economy may finally be visible on the horizon, not in diplomatic treaties, but in balance sheets, investment prospectuses, and the changing priorities of a generation that refuses to inherit the business of perpetual conflict. The final accounting will be simple. We either continue paying the escalating premiums on a policy of managed violence, or we invest in the startup costs of a peace that actually pays dividends. The market, in its cold, amoral logic, may yet make the moral choice, not because it has a conscience, but because it finally recognizes that the current business model is, in the long term, unsustainable. Even for billionaires, like the video, subscribe for more money behind stories and share it.